Jack Miller wiped condensation from the observatory window as the storm raged outside. Lightning flashed across the purple-black sky, illuminating the barren landscape of Research Outpost 47. He had chosen this assignment for the solitude, for the chance to study the unusual atmospheric conditions of Kepler 219 bits without distraction. Tonight's storm was particularly fierce, even by this planet's standards. The proximity alarm blared suddenly, cutting through the howling wind. Jack rushed to the monitoring station, expecting to see debris carried by the gale-force winds. Instead, the screen showed something impossible: a small craft plummeting through the atmosphere, trailing smoke and fire. "Computer, track that craft's landing trajectory," he ordered, already pulling on his environment suit. Protocol dictated he should radio Earth Command immediately, but the communications array was down due to the storm. By the time it cleared, whatever, or whoever, was in that ship might not survive. The terrain vehicle fought against the howling wind as Jack followed the coordinates to a small impact crater 3 kilometers from the outpost. The alien craft was unlike anything in human records, sleek, almost organic in design, with a hull that seemed to pulse with faint bioluminescence. More surprising was the gash torn in its side, revealing glimpses of the interior. Jack approached cautiously, weapon drawn. First contact protocols were clear, but they never covered what to do if first contact crashed on your doorstep during a storm. Movement from within the craft made him freeze. A slender figure emerged, humanoid but clearly not human. In the harsh light of his vehicle's beams, he could see iridescent scales covering blue-tinged skin. Large, multifaceted eyes blinked against the light. Behind this figure, another similar being appeared, supporting the first. They were injured. Even with his limited xenobiology knowledge, Jack could see the dark fluid seeping from a wound on the first alien's arm. More telling was their posture, the weakness in their limbs, the way they leaned on each other. These weren't invaders. They were survivors. The storm intensified. Staying outside meant death for all of them. Jack made his decision, holstering his weapon and raising his empty hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, knowing they couldn't understand but hoping his tone conveyed his intent. He pointed to his vehicle, then to the direction of the outpost. The aliens conferred in clicking, musical sounds. The taller one stepped forward cautiously, then stumbled. Jack moved instinctively to help, catching the alien before they fell. Up close, he realized the being was female, at least by human standards. Her companion, also female, watched warily, but made no aggressive moves. Getting them into the vehicle was awkward but necessary. Once inside the outpost, Jack brought them to the medical bay. The storm outside had become a full-fledged tempest, rattling the reinforced windows of the station. The aliens surveyed their surroundings with obvious fatigue. The taller one made a gesture toward her midsection, then her companions. Jack understood immediately. They were hungry, possibly starving. In the galley, he gathered ration packs, fruits from the hydroponics bay, and water. When he returned, the aliens watched him intently. Jack demonstrated eating a piece of fruit, then offered the food to them. Their hesitation lasted only moments before hunger won out. They sampled each item cautiously at first, then with increasing eagerness. The relief in their expressions transcended species barriers. As they ate, Jack realized the enormity of what was happening. 2 alien beings sat in his outpost, sharing his food. Everything he knew about humanity's place in the universe had just changed, all because of a storm and a split-second decision to help rather than fear. Outside, the tempest continued to rage, unaware it had just witnessed the beginning of something momentous. 3 days after the crash, Jack stood in the galley mixing protein powder with vitamin supplements. The storm had finally passed, but the communications array remained damaged. He was alone with his unexpected guests, trying to solve a problem no human had faced before: how to properly feed alien refugees. The taller alien, who had pointed to herself and made a sound like Lyra, watched him work. Her companion, Nix sat at the small table, sketching symbols on a tablet Jack had given her. Both looked healthier than when they'd arrived, but Jack could tell his standard rations weren't meeting their needs. "Your bodies process food differently," Jack said, continuing his one-sided conversation. He'd found talking aloud helped him think. "Your scales are changing color around the edges. That can't be good." Lyra tilted her head, her large eyes blinking in that vertical way that still startled Jack. She reached for the container of blue alga extract Jack had cultivated in his hydroponics lab. Before he could stop her, she dipped a finger in and tasted it. Her reaction was immediate. The dim bioluminescent patterns on her scales brightened dramatically. She made an excited trilling sound to Nix, who came over quickly. Jack watched in amazement as both aliens consumed small amounts of the alga, their scales taking on a healthier sheen within minutes. "That's it," Jack murmured. "Your bodies need different trace elements." Over the next few hours, Jack conducted an impromptu science experiment. He created various mixtures of his available food supplies, carefully noting which combinations seemed to strengthen his guests. The alga was clearly important, but they also responded well to certain mineral supplements meant for terraforming soil analysis. As they ate a meal of specially prepared food, something remarkable happened. Lyra reached for the salt shaker, but rather than saying something in her language, she pointed and said clearly, "Give." Jack stared in shock. "You're learning English." Nix made a gesture with her hands, forming shapes that seemed to represent sound waves or patterns. She touched her temple, then pointed to Jack's mouth, then to her ear. "You can process language quickly." Jack guessed. "Process," Nix repeated, the word slightly musical in her pronunciation. "Yes." Jack's scientific mind raced with the implications. Their species must have evolved remarkable cognitive abilities for language acquisition. By dinner, they had mastered several dozen basic words, enough for rudimentary communication. "We run," Lyra explained, making a motion like something chasing them. "Bad people want." She touched her head, then made a cutting motion. "They want your knowledge." Jack guessed. "Your abilities." Both aliens nodded vigorously. "Ship hurt," Nix added, mimicking an explosion. "Need help." Jack considered their situation while preparing another batch of the algae mixture. These beings had crashed on his doorstep, hungry and afraid. They were refugees, not invaders. Their ability to learn language so quickly, their unique biology, he could see why others might want to exploit them. That night, as they sat together eating the meal he prepared, Jack realized something had changed. 3 days ago, they had been strange aliens. Now, as Lyra carefully pronounced, "Thank you," and Nix attempted to explain their star system using salt and pepper shakers as planets, they were becoming friends. When Lyra attempted to help clean up after the meal, mirroring Jack's movements in washing dishes, he found himself smiling. There was something profound in this simple domestic scene, beings from different worlds, sharing food and learning from each other. "You stay," Jack told them, making a sheltering motion with his arms. "Safe here." The gratitude in their eyes needed no translation. As they prepared for sleep, Jack studied the communications array parts, planning repairs. He knew he should report this encounter, but something made him hesitate. These two needed protection, not examination. Outside, the first stars became visible in the clearing sky, twinkling like the bioluminescent patterns on his new companion's skin. The warning came at dawn. Jack was adjusting the newly repaired communications array when Lyra burst into the control room, her scales flashing in patterns of distress. "Ship coming," she said, her voice urgent. "Big ship, not friends." Jack checked the scanner. Sure enough, a vessel had entered orbit, military grade by the look of its signature. His heart sank as he recognized the markings of the Interstellar Security Force. "How did they find you?" he asked, already moving to secure the outpost. Nix joined them, carrying a device salvaged from their crashed ship. She pointed to a blinking light on its surface. "Tracker," she explained. "In ship parts. We not know." Jack's mind raced. Harboring unregistered alien refugees violated at least 6 interstellar protocols. The ISF wasn't known for its gentle approach to rule breakers. "Hide," he told them, pointing to the storage cellar beneath the hydroponics bay. "I'll handle this." The comm system crackled to life. "Research Outpost 47. This is Captain Reed of the ISF Vigilant. Prepare for inspection team arrival in 30 minutes." Jack acknowledged the message, then worked quickly. He helped Lyra and Nyx into the hidden storage area, bringing them water and food supplies. Their eyes, wide with fear, made his chest tighten. "They search for us long time," Lyra whispered. "Want our—" She touched her head, then her chest. "Our inside things." "Your biology," Jack realized. "Your DNA." Nyx nodded gravely. "Make weapons," she said. "Our bodies make special things." That explained their unique ability to process food and language. Their species had evolved biological systems that could synthesize compounds unknown to human science. The landing shuttle's engines roared outside. Jack checked that the cellar door was hidden beneath equipment, then went to greet his unwelcome visitors. Captain Reed was a hard-faced woman flanked by 4 armed soldiers. "Routine inspection," she claimed, though her eyes scanned the outpost with predatory intensity. "We're tracking fugitives who may have passed through this sector." "Haven't seen anyone," Jack said casually. "Storm took out my communications for 3 days. Just got them back online this morning." Reed consulted her scanner. "We're picking up unusual energy signatures. Mind if we take a look around?" It wasn't a question. The soldiers were already spreading out. Jack led Reed through the facility, heart pounding as they neared the hydroponics bay. A soldier pointed to the fresh algae mixtures Jack had prepared. "Interesting experiments," Reed commented. "Not standard research protocol." "Testing new nutrient combinations," Jack explained. "The soil here needs special supplements." Another soldier called from outside. "Captain, found crash debris 3 kilometers east." Reed's eyes narrowed. "Crash debris you failed to report, Dr. Miller." Jack shrugged. Communications were down. Was planning to file the report today. Reed gestured to the hydroponics equipment. "And these modifications to your food supplies. The energy fluctuations we detected." Jack pointed to the damaged solar array visible through the window. "Storm damage. Had to reroute power. As for the food, I've been experimenting with the algae. Gets lonely out here. Need hobbies." Reed looked unconvinced, but the evidence was circumstantial. After a tense hour of searching, she reluctantly prepared to leave. "If you see anything unusual, Dr. Miller, you contact us immediately," she warned. "These fugitives are dangerous. They possess biological capabilities that could threaten human security." "Of course," Jack agreed easily. "I'm just a scientist doing my job." After the shuttle departed, Jack waited a full hour before retrieving Lyra and Nyx. They emerged shaking, scales dim with stress. "They will come back," Lyra said softly. Jack nodded, watching the Vigilant's position on the scanner. "Yes, but we'll be ready." He had made his choice: science and compassion over military interests. Whatever made these aliens special, it deserved protection, not exploitation. Jack woke to find Nyx standing over his laboratory table, her slender fingers manipulating the microscope with surprising skill. 2 weeks had passed since the ISS visit, and in that time, his alien guests had mastered not just basic English, but the fundamentals of his research equipment. "What are you looking at?" he asked, yawning. Nyx glanced up, her multifaceted eyes catching the morning light. "My blood," she said simply. "I show you something important." Jack joined her at the microscope. What he saw made him gasp. The alien blood cells were unlike anything in human biology, changing shape before his eyes, forming complex molecular structures that shouldn't be possible in a living organism. "This is how we survive," Lyra explained, entering with 3 mugs of the algae tea they now shared each morning. Our bodies make what we need. You can synthesize compounds internally, Jack asked, his scientific mind racing with possibilities. Nix nodded. Why hunters want us? Our bodies make medicines, cures. They want to cut us open, study parts. Jack adjusted the microscope, capturing images of the extraordinary cellular activity. But this could help people, not as weapons, but as medicine. This could cure diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries. The aliens exchanged looks. Their ability to communicate silently, through subtle changes in their scale patterns, still fascinated Jack. We know, Lyra said finally, we not want to die. But we want to help. Good people help each other. That afternoon, they began a new project. Jack set up equipment to safely sample and analyze the aliens' biological processes. Lyra and Nix voluntarily provided tissue samples, explaining through a mixture of words and drawings how their bodies functioned. Our blood changes, Nix demonstrated, adding a drop of her blue-green blood to a dish containing a toxin Jack used for soil testing. The blood cells surrounded the toxin, restructured it, neutralized it. We adapt. Fast healing. No sickness. Is this common for your species? Jack asked, recording the miraculous transformation. Lyra shook her head. Special ones only. Why they hunt us? We are. What word? Rare. You're mutants, Jack realized. Evolutionary advancements. Over dinner, a nutrient-rich stew Jack had perfected for their unique needs, they discussed what to do with this knowledge. If we could document this properly, Jack said, create a scientific record that explains how your biology works without needing to dissect you, it could transform medicine throughout known space and make hunters stop chasing. Nix asked hopefully. Jack considered this. Maybe. If the knowledge became public, belonged to everyone, there would be less incentive to capture you. Lyra's scales flashed in what Jack now recognized as their expression of deep thought. We trust you, Jack. You fed us when hungry. You hid us when scared. Our people have saying, one who shares food shares soul. On Earth, we have similar beliefs, Jack said. Breaking bread together is a sign of peace and friendship in many cultures. That night, they worked late into the night, Jack documenting the aliens' unique biology, while they explained their world, their culture. They showed him how they could deliberately trigger their bodies to produce specific compounds, some that could fight infection, others that could heal damaged tissue, even some that could protect against radiation. Jack realized he was no longer just helping 2 refugees. He was participating in a scientific breakthrough that could change the course of human medicine forever. As the outpost grew quiet and his new friends retired to sleep, Jack looked at the star-filled sky through the observatory dome. Somewhere out there were more beings like Lyra and Nix, hunted for gifts that should be shared, not exploited. We'll find a way, he promised the silent stars. The bond formed over shared meals had become something far deeper, a shared purpose. We need to send message, Lyra announced one morning, exactly 3 weeks after their arrival. Her English had improved remarkably, though her musical accent remained. Jack looked up from his breakfast. Message, to whom? Our people, Nix explained, spreading a hand-drawn star chart across the table. Not all hunt us. Many believe like us, sharing knowledge better than keeping secrets. Jack studied their map. They had marked their home system in the Cygnus constellation, far beyond current human exploration range. My communications equipment can't reach that far, he said regretfully. Lyra's scales shimmered with determination. We fix. Make stronger. She pointed to pieces of their salvaged ship. Technology good for this. They spent the day modifying the outpost's communication array. Jack watched in amazement as his alien friends transformed his standard-issue equipment with components from their crashed vessel. Their knowledge of quantum communications was decades beyond Earth's best scientists. This will boost signal through subspace, Nix explained, connecting crystalline nodes to Jack's transmitter. Message travel faster than light. By nightfall, they had created something remarkable, a hybrid of human and alien technology that pulsed with energy. "What exactly will your message say?" Jack asked as they prepared for transmission. Lyra's expression grew solemn. "Truth. Show peaceful way exists." She touched Jack's arm gently. "Show human fed us, helped us, learned from us. Not cut open, not cage." "We send biological data too," Nix added. "Medical knowledge freely given, not taken. This is revolution for our people." Jack felt humbled. "I just did what anyone would do." Lyra's scales flashed in what he now recognized as their equivalent of laughter. "No, Jack. Many would fear different. You offered food first, asked questions later." The transmission was encoded in a language Jack couldn't comprehend, but he helped aim the signal using the star chart they had provided. As the message beamed out across the vast darkness of space, Jack felt a strange mixture of pride and unease. They had just announced their location to the cosmos. "How long until it reaches your people?" he asked. 3 days, Nix said. "But others may hear too." Jack hadn't considered that. Others? Like who? The aliens exchanged glances. "Galaxy is busy place," Lyra said carefully. "Many listen to stars." That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He reviewed the outpost's security systems, feeling suddenly exposed. The vast emptiness surrounding the research station no longer seemed so empty. His concerns proved warranted. Just before dawn, the proximity alarm sounded. Jack rushed to the monitoring station, expecting to see the ISF's return. Instead, the screen showed something entirely different. 3 ships of unknown design, approaching in perfect formation. "They heard," Nix said, appearing beside him. Her scales were pulsing rapidly. "So fast. Not possible unless." "Unless they were already watching," Lyra finished, her voice tight. Jack stared at the approaching vessels. "Are they your people? The ones hunting you?" "No," Lyra whispered. "Different design. Unknown." The communication system activated itself, displaying symbols Jack had never seen. Lyra and Nix stared at the screen, their scales changing to deep blues of shock. "What is it?" Jack demanded. "What does it say?" "Message from Galactic Coalition," Nix translated slowly. "They say they have been monitoring. They say your kindness to us was test. No, evaluation." Lyra looked at Jack with wide eyes. "They say humanity ready for invitation." "Invitation to what?" Jack asked, though something in him already knew the answer. "First contact," both aliens said together, their scales glowing with intense light. "Official first contact." The ships continued their approach as the 3 friends stood speechless before the monitor, watching as everything they knew about their place in the universe changed forever. The landing zone Jack had hastily prepared seemed inadequate for the moment's gravity. 3 shimmering vessels had touched down a kilometer from the outpost, their hulls catching the morning sunlight in ways that defied human engineering. "Should I wear something more formal than my research uniform?" Jack asked nervously, running a hand through his unkempt hair. Lyra touched his shoulder. "They care about heart, not clothes," she said. "You showed true self when you fed strangers. No need for false face now." The delegation that emerged from the central ship moved with fluid grace. 7 beings of 5 distinctly different species approached in perfect formation. Their leader appeared almost human, save for the silvery skin and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them. Dr. Jack Miller, the leader, spoke in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Thelos of the Galactic Coalition. We have been watching you with great interest." Jack's scientific mind reeled at the implications. "You speak our language." Thelos smiled. "We speak all languages of species approaching readiness. Humanity has been under observation for decades." Nix and Lyra stepped forward, bowing deeply to the delegation. Thelos acknowledged them with evident respect. Your compassion for these refugees has accelerated our timetable considerably, Thelos continued. We had not planned first contact for another 15 Earth years. Inside the outpost's conference room, now crowded with beings from across the galaxy, Thelos explained further. The Coalition had been monitoring humanity's development, waiting for signs they were ready to join the interstellar community. Each species must demonstrate certain qualities before invitation, a plant-like being named Aaron added. Technological advancement is simple. Moral advancement is harder to measure. And my helping Lyra and Nyx proved humanity's moral advancement. Jack asked skeptically. I'm just one person. One person whose instinct was kindness, Thelos corrected. When faced with the unknown, you offered food, not fear. This simple act is considered sacred across all Coalition species. Another delegate, a crystalline entity that communicated through light pulses, projected images of different worlds. Each showed similar scenes, beings sharing meals across species boundaries. Breaking bread together, Jack murmured, remembering his conversation with Lyra weeks earlier. The universal gesture of peace, Thelos confirmed. In our combined histories, no species that freely shares food with strangers has ever proven dangerous to the Coalition. It demonstrates empathy that transcends biological differences. But our world has wars, conflicts, Jack argued. We're not all like this. No species is perfect, Aaron rustled. But your potential is remarkable. The medical knowledge you've helped document with Lyra and Nyx's cooperation shows you value learning over exploitation. A delegate resembling an upright feline unfolded a holographic display showing Earth. Your planet stands at a crossroads. The technology you are developing could destroy your world or elevate it. The choice was always yours, but now you need not make it alone. Jack felt dizzy with the implications. And what happens now? Thelos spread his hands in a gesture of openness. Now Earth receives an invitation to join us. Representatives of your governments will be contacted within days. But you, Dr. Miller, have already done the difficult part. Which was? Jack asked. Proving that humans can see beyond appearance, beyond fear, Lyra answered for them. Proving you can see people, not aliens, when you look at us. As the meeting continued, plans were made. The outpost would temporarily serve as an embassy. Jack's research would be expanded, funded by Coalition resources. Lyra and Nyx would be granted asylum and diplomatic status. That evening, Jack stood outside watching the 3 alien ships glowing softly against the darkening sky. Lyra joined him, her scales reflecting the starlight. Everything changes now, she said quietly. Jack nodded. All because you crashed here during a storm. No, Lyra corrected. All because when we were hungry, you fed us. Sometimes biggest changes in universe start with smallest kindnesses. Looking up at the stars, Jack realized they no longer represented lonely isolation, but a community waiting to welcome humanity. If they could demonstrate the same simple kindness he had shown to 2 hungry strangers. 1 year later, Jack stood at the observation window of what had once been his solitary outpost. The view had transformed completely. Where barren landscape once stretched to the horizon, a gleaming complex of interconnected domes now housed the first Earth Coalition embassy. Still can't believe this sometimes, he murmured to himself, watching shuttles arrive carrying diplomats from 17 worlds. Believe, Lyra said, joining him at the window. Her once dull scales now shimmered with health and purpose. As official ambassador of her species to Earth, she wore the formal insignia of both her homeworld and the Coalition. You changed galaxy with sandwich. Jack laughed. I think it was the algae tea that really sealed the deal. The joke between them had become familiar, but it held profound truth. Earth's entry into the Galactic Coalition had begun with the simple act of feeding hungry strangers. The main conference hall buzzed with activity as Jack and Lyra entered. Humans mingled with beings from across known space, sharing ideas and breaking barriers. In the center stood Nyx, now chief medical liaison, demonstrating the revolutionary healing compounds synthesized from her biological research with Jack. The Henderson treatment successfully regenerated nerve tissue in 98% of test cases, she explained to an audience of human doctors, without need for surgery. The Henderson treatment, named after Jack's mother, was just one of dozens of medical breakthroughs emerging from the collaboration. Diseases considered incurable for centuries now had effective treatments, all derived from the biological compounds Lyra and Nix had freely shared rather than hidden. Earth's president approached Jack, extending her hand. Dr. Miller, the Beijing Medical Center, reports the first successful treatment of radiation poisoning using the new protocols. 10,000 lives saved this month alone. Jack nodded, still uncomfortable with his celebrity status. The credit belongs to Lyra and Nix. I just provided the lab space. And the courage to break protocol, the president reminded him. Not everyone would have made the same choice. That evening, as representatives from 23 worlds gathered for the anniversary dinner, Jack found himself seated between Thelos and the newly arrived ambassador from a water-dwelling species called the Mirren. Before food, tradition requires remembering how we came to break bread together, Thelos announced, rising from his seat. 1 year ago, the human scientist chose compassion over fear, sharing over hoarding, kindness over protocol. The Mirren ambassador blinked large, luminous eyes at Jack. In our depths, we have saying, the current that changes ocean begins as single drop. You were this drop, Jack Miller. Jack felt his face flush. I just did what seemed right at the time. Precisely, Thelos said with a smile. The natural instinct to feed the hungry. This simple human trait has proven your species' worthiness more than any technological achievement could. As the meal commenced, a carefully designed menu safe for all species present, Jack watched the extraordinary scene. Earth had moved from isolated outpost to galactic crossroads in a single year. After dinner, he escaped briefly to his old laboratory, now expanded but still containing his original equipment. Lyra found him there, examining the first crude algae mixture he had prepared for them. Thinking deep thoughts, she asked. Just remembering how scared we all were back then, Jack said. You and Nix afraid for your lives, me afraid of the unknown. And now look at us, hosting interspecies diplomatic dinners. Lyra's scales rippled with affection. My people have saying, feed body in hunger, feed soul in friendship, feed future with knowledge. You did all three. Together they walked back toward the diplomatic reception, where humans and aliens alike shared food, drink, and ideas under the stars. Everything changed, Jack reflected, because 2 hungry aliens crashed during a storm. No, Lyra corrected gently. Everything changed because one kind human looked at strangers and saw not threats, but friends who needed feeding. As they rejoined the gathering of worlds, Jack realized the galaxy had indeed been transformed, not by grand treaties or technological marvels, but by the simple, universal power of sharing a meal with those in need.